Hello, welcome to Gardener's World. Now today we shall be announcing the results of our dahlia trial that we've been running since the first programme of the series back in February. They still look fantastic and we want them to go on looking at their very best right into autumn. Now the best way to get them to do that is to keep deadheading. I prefer to use a knife rather than secateurs and just sort through them, taking off the flowers that have got this conical shape. That's by far the easiest way to see when they're spent. And I have to say that we've really enjoyed this trial. It's been genuinely good fun. And we've had an overwhelming response from you. Just like the sunflower trial, it's something that seems to have touched a chord in all of you, and you've also had a good time growing them too.
I've really enjoyed growing dahlias, and I've never grown them before. I took part in the trial and I grew the cactus dahlia, and I've had singles and doubles, and to grow them from seed and get all this in 1 year is beautiful.
My favourite of the stargazers is this lovely white one, which I think makes a lovely show with my roses and other flowers. Two plants that I planted in another part of the garden didn't do so well, and I presume they were eaten by slugs.
I'm growing pom-pom mixed. I planted 30 seeds and 27 germinated. Here are my allotment in Greengates. I'm using them as cut flowers. The yellow ones drop the petals and the dark ones are a little heavy-headed.
We'll be showing you some more of your reactions later on in the programme, and also visiting the RHS and the Dahlia Society and seeing their results, because they took part in the trial too. And when it comes to the final results, two things really stood out. One of these was by far and away the most popular, judging by the amount of replies that we had, and another one, way ahead of all the others, fulfilled all its promise. And I tell you what, it took me completely by surprise. It was not the one I expected. Anyway, we'll come back to all of that later, because the programme isn't just about dahlias. Carol is in the formal garden, seeing how well it's performed over the summer and what we need to do to extend that as far as possible into autumn. And Joe is in the viewer's garden, our jungle garden, doing a little bit of controlling to get the best out of it. A couple of weeks ago I was looking at powdery mildew, and these courgettes got it really badly, but it's interesting that the new growth is completely free of it, and it shows you two things. One, how that you need certain conditions, and since we've had cooler weather and a bit of rain, the powdery mildew hasn't spread, and also how plants will recover from what looks like a disastrous position. They have enormous powers of recuperation. But there are times when you do need to give plants a bit of a boost. And when you buy fertiliser, by law, they must say what's in them. And there will be 3 letters, N, P, K. And then there will be a number next to them. So you might have N8, P4, K12.
N stands for nitrogen, which is essential for green growth. But an overly lush plant will attract every kind of pest and disease imaginable. P is for phosphorus, which is vital for good roots. You rarely have to add extra phosphorus, as there's generally plenty in the soil.
And the last ingredient, potassium, encourages, other than good tuber and root growth, flowers and fruit. At this time of year, it's potassium that is most useful. I'm thinking particularly of tomatoes, melons, aubergines, peppers, all of these, particularly if they're grown indoors in containers, or any plant that's flowering or fruiting in a container will need more potassium because it will have exhausted the nutrients in its compost. So when you buy your fertiliser, at this time of year, look for the last number, K, being more than the other two, typically K, 8 or 12. Now this one, which I'm going to add to our outdoor tomatoes, is 548. So you've got twice as much potassium as phosphorus. Now this is an organic one, and it doesn't use any animal matter in its makeup, so I can handle it with impunity. And the way to put it on is just sprinkle it round the base of the plant, not too thickly. And then if it's going to rain, which I think it is today, you don't need to water it in, but if it's dry or if it's indoors, water it in.
I'm just mixing up some liquid tomato feed for the jungle garden. I'm going to use it on the cannas and some of the gingers to prolong the season, try and get as much out of them as possible. And it was just 5 months ago that you, the viewers, voted for us to build a jungle garden, and hopefully you'll be proud of us. I mean, look at it. It is fantastic. It's a real jungle, lots of greenery, lots of height, lots of foliage. I hope you think that we've done you proud. These tree ferns, they got a bit knocked back in the frost earlier in the year, but they've bounced back with a vengeance, and it just goes to show how tough they really are. We put an irrigation drip feed system into them and lots of lush new growth, all these fronds. They're fabulous. Even the frogs moved in. It seems to love those water features. I think it's become resident. And I've just got to scramble my way through here, past the bamboos, which are giving plenty of height too. We've got these wonderful ipomeas that are introducing plenty of colour into the garden here. This one's Sunrise Serenade. And then towards the back we've got these fabulous cannas, great foliage, green ones and the stripy ones all mixing together. And what a wonderful flower too, really jungly. But now's the time to get stuck in. We've got to do a bit of editing, a little bit of selective pruning. Now the first thing I'm going to do is try and clear out this path again. We've got the bamboo that's bending over under the weight of the ipomea. It's been fantastic, this ipomea, flowering all season. But now I'm just going to start thinning it out a little bit, just hacking back. Really entangled in there. Ooh. We're going to lose some flowers, but there will be more. Now, it's good to do that, to get quite a lot of that out, because actually it's strangling the plant and bending over quite a few of the bamboo canes, and we're sort of losing the graceful shape and all the height as well, and it's just pulling it straight into the path. Now, what I'm going to do here is to thin out some of these canes in the bamboo. It's the perfect time of year to take out the thinner canes and encourage the nice thick canes to come through. And the last thing you want to do is just chop a cane halfway down. It really makes an ugly shape of the bamboo. We're looking for a nice, graceful, tall, arching shape. So what I'm going to do is get right down the bottom here, and all these weak canes I'm going to cut right down to the ground and pull them out. Now, don't be tempted to feed your bamboo at this time of the year, because all it's going to do is encourage soft growth that's going to get hit by the first frost. So we're going to leave it now and hopefully get some nice thick shoots next year. These cannas have been fantastic. Look at the height on them. And over here, we had a wonderful flower, but now that flower's finished. And with cannas, what you want to do is take the stalk down to the nearest leaf, just above the leaf, so we're keeping all this brilliant striped foliage. This is Canna Durban, and I'm just going to snip it off nice and cleanly there. So what we've got is the foliage still there, and that's going to feed the root system, and so it's going to encourage even more growth next year. The jungle garden is now a permanent fixture here at Berryfields, and we're thinking of doing another viewers garden next year, so we want your suggestions. You can visit the website or email us at viewersgarden@bbc.co.uk. Carol, what do you think of it? It's been great, isn't it?
I think it's fabulous. Whoever would have thought when we put in all those little tiny things that they really would take off like this?
Yeah, I know, it's amazing. I think a combination of the soil conditioning and also the irrigation, I think, has really helped it take off.
And the perfume too. I mean, this hedychium, these ginger lilies, they're phenomenal, aren't they?
Yeah.
Just close your eyes and you don't need to go on holiday.
Anyway, I'm going to finish off here.
Yeah, and I'm going to sort out this formal garden, I hope. We haven't been in the formal garden for quite some time, but it's looking really superb. It's full of colour. These marvellous dianthus have just kept going, and so have the cosmos. And just look at these penstemons. They really are beautiful. And there's loads and loads of buds to take over from these. So we're going to have a good show for ages and ages. But I suppose the most spectacular thing in here at the moment are these lilies. This is Speciosum rubrum. There's an ordinary Speciosum that's pink and spotted, but look at the colour in this. It's really intense and rich. Now, we've had lilies in here all the way through the summer, and some of them did very well, but some of the early ones got badly frosted. So we lifted some of them, and we put them in what we called a lily hospital. In other words, we just potted them up in really good loam-based compost, with very good effect, because look, they've all greened up, and although they never had a chance of flowering, that doesn't matter, because those bulbs will be just right for next year. Now, lilies are very, very expensive, but there are lots of good ways of propagating them. If they're species lilies, you can grow them from seed. Sometimes you can use bulbils, but by far the best way, and the most fun, is to grow them from scales. Now's the best time to do this. Choose a really good, strong plant, and dig it up carefully, making sure that you don't slice the bulb in half with your spade. Remove any excess soil so you can really see what you're doing. So this is a really beautiful big fat bulb, and you can see all these scales quite distinctly. They're almost falling off of their own volition. So we're just going to detach these as close to the base plate as we possibly can and put them into this bowl of vermiculite. We can take really quite a number off here without doing this bulb any harm at all. You can do this with new bulbs that you bought too. So we'll put that one down and just mix this together. And the idea of the vermiculite is just to make sure that it keeps all these bulbs separate from one another, and it's just a sort of neutral medium. Now, to do this, the best way is to create a sort of mini greenhouse. So I'm getting handfuls of this mixture, putting them into there, and I'm hopefully going to seal this up. And when we get close to the other side, I'm going to blow the whole thing up with a straw, because you want plenty of air in there. Just put that into there. And you're just creating a sort of mini greenhouse. Now you want to put the bag, as soon as you've done this, into the airing cupboard. That's the best place. Anywhere where it's warm and very, very dark. And in a couple of months, each of these scales will have produced its own little bulbil at the base. You'll have lots of them, and then you can line them all out, either into a piece of open ground in a cold frame, or better still into a tray of compost.
Do you know, much as I like some of the things about this garden, I have to confess it's not right, is it? There's one big thing that's very wrong in my eyes.
It's the boundary, isn't it?
I love this hurdling, but it's wrong here.
It's too rustic.
A brick wall would look fantastic.
It would, yeah.
And
Is this a put-up
expensive.
job? I agree, actually. I think that would be the very best solution, especially if we could find old brick.
An old stock brick wall would be fantastic.
And if we couldn't afford or find the right sort of brick?
So I suppose a substitute could be a rendered wall, or perhaps a painted fence.
Yeah, yeah.
Painted sympathetically.
Not blue. Just not blue.
And definitely not purple.
Right. Let's get back to our dahlia trial. Now remember, the trial is not just to see what dahlias are like. After all, we grow plenty of those from tubers. It was to see whether dahlias grown from seed would give us a really good display. And I confess that I've never grown them from seed before, so I've been fascinated from the very beginning. We sowed the seed in March, pricked them out in April, pinched out the tops to give us really nice bushy plants, and planted them out in May. Joe and I put in an irrigation system, and we have kept them weeded, and we've dead-headed them. But other than that, we've really done nothing at all. And I know we've said this before, but they do look fantastic. It really has been a wonderful display of colour. Now, just to go over them, there were 5 different mixes that we trialled. And we did this in rows in our trial ground. In the back row, there is cactus flowered mixed. Next to them, we've got the pom-pom mixture, and then there's Bishop's Children, Stargazer, and finally Minstrel mixture. Now this final row is not part of the trial, although in fact it plays an important factor because it's our control. It's called After 8. The RHS have given it its award of garden merit, and it has the sort of consistency of shape, size, foliage and colour that counts a plant as performing to the very highest standard. So it's the measure by which we judge all the rest. Now, we've trialled these here at Berryfields. Thousands of you have taken part, which is fantastic. But also the RHS has done this trial too, and the Dahlia Society has been involved. And we went down to Wisley to see what the nation's best judges of dahlias thought of these plants.
We've come here as a group of experts on dahlias to look at the dahlias that are on trial, to pick out the best ones. And by best, I mean the ones that are best for garden use. What do we look for? Well, we'll look for a plant that's got a striking flower, but also plenty of flower, because that's what you want a garden plant to do, to be floriferous. You want a plant also to have good leaves and to produce that flower above the leaves so it can be seen.
Any garden dahlia needs to have a succession of flowers from the beginning of August through till September. So we're always looking for a plant that actually gives value for money right the way through the season.
The judging process isn't an easy process because the Award of Garden Merit should be a reliable symbol for a good plant. So I am very critical.
I like to think I'm harsh but very fair. There are a set of rules which I have to stick to. I'm the president of the society.
The formation of the petals is of the utmost importance, plus the placement of the petals, and also it must have a full centre.
We like dahlias to comply with classification. With a cactus, we're looking at pointed petals, cleanliness and 45 degrees angle on the stem with a beautiful centre. The standard of bloom on the cactus hybrid mix didn't reflect that at all. Many of the blooms were ragged and didn't have firm centres and generally looked an untidy appearance compared to what was on the packet.
A good single bloom will have 2 rows of open stamen round the centre of the flower, and each bloom has the same number of petals. Normally it's 8, sometimes it's 7.
The minstrel mix ended up all things to all people. We're looking for something that has some uniformity. This particular group showed no uniformity, and whilst they gave a great splash of colour, it was a quite confusing mixture of single flowers. A pom-pom dahlia has to be sat right on top of the stem, it has to be spherical, and it has to be 2 inches maximum diameter, clean and perfect. The pom-pom mix didn't come up to expectations. Most of these flowers were flat and they had open centres, and they ended up to be a bit of a mishmash and a disappointment.
I'm a gardener, so for me a dahlia has to have impact because it's all about that. It's a very flamboyant flower and you use it in your borders to give you that bit of punch.
Having looked at the BBC Gardener's World Dahlias, we've selected 2 for Wisley. The Bishop's Children seedling that we have selected has wonderful foliage, it has clarity of colour and a beautiful ring of petals around the edge. The other lovely little Stargazer seedling is short, but I've never seen a dahlia with as many flowers on it, so I look forward to seeing it in the trial next year.
So that is a really highly successful result from them. They will take Stargazer and Bishop's Children, trial them again next year to see if they are worthy of an Award of Garden Merit, and that's about as good as it gets for a plant. I have to say myself, although Stargazer is pretty uniform and it has masses of flowers, it's missing that magic ingredient for me. It doesn't make my heart sing. Whereas Bishop's Children is less uniform, but it has a special something. And for our team here at Berryfields, that was the pick of the bunch. And certainly we had by far the most response from you lot about Bishop's Children.
I'm Jean Perks from Harborne in Birmingham, and this variety of dahlia is called Bishop's Children. It's grown a lot taller than I thought it would. What I particularly like about it is the centre with the stamens coming out in a circle, which is very attractive to the bees.
Well, we've never grown dahlias from seed before, and we thought we'd have a go.
We're hoping that, like as a true Yorkshireman, you know, you don't have to buy no more plants and you can use the tubers, probably split them next year and get double the show that we've had this year.
Well, I had the Bishop's Children selection, and I was absolutely thrilled because I got 33 plants out of it, and they all came up with this lovely bronze colouring of the foliage, and I think that it makes a superb contrast to the Phygellus.
So that's just some of your reactions. We received thousands more via email and letter, and thank you all very much indeed. We really do like hearing from you. We had lots of photographs, none so well bound or presented as Mrs. Carol Moses's record of growing stargazer from seed through to a final flower, and I personally particularly liked all the letters we have from children. We've got a marvellous letter here from Hampstead Hill School in Hampstead, decorated with a collage of Bishop's children, and 2 marvellous diaries from the Walsh twins of growing stargazer. But for all of you, thank you for writing. Now, I will go through your results in some detail, but if you want the accurate figures, just go to our website where I've posted them all. We'll start with the cactus flowered hybrids mix. Now remember, the important thing is to match up their performance with you against what was promised on either the catalogue or on the seed packet itself. The catalogue described it as huge spiky blooms, smashing border plant, stunning and long-lasting cut flowers. And in fact, on balance, 2/3 of you agreed with the fact that the flowers were huge and spiky and there was a wide variation and were generally satisfied. But that leaves over 1/3 not really convinced. My own feeling is that when it was good, it was very good, but it was very variable. You have a really good cactus shape there, and on the same plant, quite a different flower. Now, I don't mind that too much, but it certainly doesn't entirely live up to its reputation. Personally, I think you're a bit harsh. I rather like it. Then we came to the pom-pom mix. Now, the catalogue described this as saying, this mixture contains a good proportion of high-quality pom-pom types in a variety of shades. Well, a lot of you, almost half of you, felt that there weren't enough pom-pom types. Where it is pom-pom, I think it's a cracker. But certainly it is very varied. Now, for Bishop's children, the catalogue described it as a fiery mixture of striking colours complemented by rich bronze foliage. The eruption of colour makes this a spectacular dahlia for both bedding and borders or as a stunning cut flower. Generally, your responses reflect that, except for one thing. It didn't quite live up to its reputation as a good cut flower. Nearly 1/3 of you felt that that wasn't an accurate description. But I do think this is a particularly attractive dahlia. Now, we come to stargazer, which we know is going on for further trials at the RHS. The catalogue description is, so versatile, stargazer is stunning as a centrepiece in a bed, makes an attractive addition to mixed borders, and is a long-lasting cut flower. Well, most of you agreed with all of that. You particularly felt that the flower shape performed as promised. But the general satisfaction was slightly reduced by the fact that over 1/3 of you felt that they didn't make a long-lasting cut flower. I said what I feel about this. I feel that it's a good, worthy plant, but somehow lacks that essential magical element to really make it worth a place in the garden. But each to your own. And finally, we come to minstrel mixture. Now, the catalogue described this, saying it looked good in tubs or borders, large, many-coloured blooms, semi-doubled flowered mixture would cheer up any garden. It's compact with an attractive green or bronze green foliage. The vast majority of you thought this worked in every respect, but it was let down a bit by its ability to perform in tubs, where nearly 1/3 of you felt that it didn't do well in a tub or a container. But that could be to the fact that dahlias really need rich soil and lots of water, and they're less likely to get that in the container than they are in the soil. I have to say, I don't agree with you on this one. This was my least favourite, mainly because it's so varied, and I'm not sure that I like the colours, but that's entirely a personal taste. But there's no doubt about it, the Bishop's Children was the one that evoked the most powerful response from you. But I can tell you what, the bees like them all the same. I've never seen so many bees on flowers as these. All right, you two, put yourself on the line. Which is your favourite?
Hard to choose, but I've got to go for these cactus ones, especially this lovely corally one and that vivid orange one at the bottom.
I think Bishop's Children have been fantastic, especially the one right in the middle with that deep magenta. It's gorgeous.
So, the conclusion of the 2005 Gardener's World Dahlia Trial is that the dahlias that you felt most fulfilled the description on the seed packet was minstrel mixture. But by far the most popular dahlia, as voted for by you, the RHS and all of us here at Gardener's World, was Bishop's Children.
Now, it's much too early to be lifting dahlia tubers yet, but here are some jobs you can do this weekend. I'm planting these young spring cabbage plants to give us a delicious harvest next March, April and May. As part of our crop rotation, these are following on from beans, because brassicas do best in ground where legumes have grown previously. Plant them firmly and give them plenty of space to develop properly. And after you've watered them in, do remember to protect them from pigeons.
This is the perfect time of year to cut back your hedges, and here in the formal garden the newly planted Linicera red tips hedge is getting a bit straggly, so I'm going to cut it back to encourage compact growth. And whilst I'm at it, I'm going to use some of the prunings to make new plants.
The best time to plant an Anemone rosa is right now. You can buy the little rhizomes mail order. These are woodlanders, so prepare a site in a shady place by loosening the soil and adding leaf mould. Plant the rhizomes horizontally just a few centimetres deep and cover them loosely. Water well.
Of course, the dahlias weren't our only trial this year. The pumpkin trial is still ongoing, but it is coming to a close and we'll be revealing the results at the beginning of October. So, if you'd like to contact us, please do. You can do it three ways. You can either email us at pumpkins@bbc.co.uk, you can go to our website where there'll be instructions to follow, or you can write to us at Pumpkin Trial, Gardener's World, BBC Birmingham, B1 1RF. And we're trialling 3 varieties. These are 100-weight. And there's an extra aspect to the trial that we want to know who can grow the heaviest single 100-weight pumpkin. Earlier on in the year, we had a couple of lads visitors who had grown an enormous pumpkin last year. It was over £900, has the UK record, and they're going to come back and see us. And we contacted them recently, and they said they had a pumpkin that was already £50. Well, I don't know. I reckon this one here is £52? What do you think, Joe?
53, at least. I can see it from here.
Yeah. At least.
But, you know, come on, size isn't everything with pumpkins, is it? I mean, look at this one, Crown Prince. It's a beautiful colour. It's gorgeous. It's much smaller, but it's doing really well.
They're beautiful, healthy plants too, aren't they? Which is more than you can say for these. This is jack of all trades. Well, the pumpkins are doing fine, but look at the mildew on the leaves. Yeah. And I think it's poor watering and lack of air circulation, probably. Yeah. Perhaps the fence has kept the rain off them.
Taking the leaves off now won't do any harm to the actual fruit, will it? All it will mean is that they won't develop any more, and it's certainly a reasonable thing to do. Now, next week, we'll obviously be back at the normal time, but it is a rather special programme because we're having our own harvest festival. We shall be gathering all the vegetables, the fruits, the seeds, the cut flowers that we can muster from berry fields and celebrating that fact. So, join us then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, after the rain of the last few days, it looks as though it could get colder. And there is a risk everywhere across the British Isles that we could have a touch of frost at dawn tomorrow morning. Now, this will warm up south of the border into a nice sunny day, but in Scotland and Northern Ireland, as the temperatures rise, it'll bring rain. It'll be warm on Saturday night and a much milder day on Sunday everywhere. But if you haven't done so already, do pop out now and protect those tender plants.